Over the past year, book publishers have repeatedly found themselves caught in controversies over authors' use of AI. Social media sleuths run books through AI detection tools, accusations start flying, and in some cases publishers cancel a book's publication altogether. But how much should readers actually care if an author uses AI for research, editing, or polishing prose? And are publishers genuinely concerned about the technology, or are they simply trying to avoid the backlash that comes with it? To talk through those questions, I spoke with media veteran Jason Krebs, whose career spans some of the industry's biggest companies and smallest startups. He's worked across media, advertising, and content at companies including Google, Disney, the New York Times, and Condé Nast. We also spent a large portion of the conversation digging into YouTube's evolving strategy. The platform is making it harder for smaller creators to qualify for ad revenue, setting an especially high bar for shorts monetization, and increasingly positioning itself as a competitor to traditional television and streaming services. Jason and I debated what these moves say about YouTube's advertising ambitions, why shorts may function more as a hedge against TikTok than a standalone creator business, and what happens as YouTube and Netflix increasingly encroach on each other's turf. I'm Simon Owens, and this is The Business of Content, the show about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. If you want to listen to an audio version of this show, subscribe to The Business of Content wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, gently tap on that subscribe button so you can watch me interview the world's most successful media entrepreneurs. Okay, let's jump into the interview. Hey Jason, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon on this fine late summer day, Simon. Good to see you.
Yeah, the sun just came out, and it came out at the wrong time because I was actually adjusting my brightness levels before this, and I was kind of accounting for it being a little bit more overcast, so hopefully it doesn't throw off my image too much. But good to have you on here. So this will be a slight departure from what I normally do with this podcast, where I'm interviewing some kind of media entrepreneur, and we're talking just about them and their specific media business. For this, and hopefully we're going to start doing this on like a semi-regular basis, is it's gonna be like an opportunity to kind of zoom out and look at the media industry at large, kind of do what I do in my newsletter in on a daily basis, but instead of doing it in written form, it'll allow us to kind of stretch our legs out and just talk about what's going on in the media, give our own analysis, our own hot takes. And so super excited to be doing this with you. Obviously, we'll have some kinks early on, but hopefully we'll develop a rapport over time. So I guess I just want to introduce you to the audience. I think you sent me a random email wanting to experiment with this, and I was definitely drawn to you because you have a very deep, strong background in the media industry. You've worked on the startup side, but you've also worked, deeply on like kind of more traditional media companies. You wanted to give us just a basic rundown of your career?
Yeah, it's been a great ride. I'm grateful to be here with you. You're a terrific reporter, and I appreciate your points of view on things. So I think we could make a nice pairing on yin and yanging this thing, because I've done big media companies, I've done small media companies, I've done big tech companies, small tech companies, startups, middle in-betweens, public companies, private companies, a little bit of everything. I've been on the media side, advertising, technology, platform, even had editorial and content reporting to me. So I think I cover most things. Big companies, Google, Walt Disney Company, New York Times, Condé Nast, and small startups, Tremor Video, Tenor, Gift Keyboard, Stream Elements. So, with big backers behind us like SoftBank and small little things with friends and family. So, I think I've seen a lot of different things in this, however many years we've been doing this.
And like right now, you're mainly doing like consulting and or investing in like various companies and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of dozen investments that are active out there, and I speak with those founders and help them where I can. And I'm also helping a few current companies get off the ground. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And then in terms of our motivations for doing this, like for me, I'm always trying to develop a deeper relationship with my audience. I think those kind of deeper relationships basically lead to higher paid conversions for subscriptions. It's not just about the content behind the paywall. It's how much you connect with the brand or the person that's doing it. And so I think by being a little bit more conversational than I'm able to be in my normal interviews with my podcast, I can deepen that relationship. For you, what is this about? This is about deal flow. This is about keeping having a fresh voice in the industry so people think of you first? How do you think about your motivations for doing something like this?
Yeah, I think relevancy. I'd like to still be out there, and I want to learn more. So I think the more we put things out into the market and out into the community, I hope that we'll get back that to a higher multiple of knowledge, information, cool companies, directions. I mean, everything we're going to even talk about today, half of these things is well, I don't know, but here's what I think. You know, if we go over predictions, I mean, they're very hard. It's the hardest part of this business. Also, short-term predictions are probably a little easier, but, you know, everybody and his sister has a prediction on AI, and we're going to certainly take our stab. But my goal is to be out there and to learn and to figure out what's happening and do that from smart people, which is hopefully what we'll get out of a community here. If we're not doing that, we're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, and this will be an interesting experiment in me being a little bit more open about kind of my general feelings on AI. I kind of keep it, like, obviously I write about it a lot in the newsletter, but I try to like have a more kind of strict analytical and reporting kind of mindset, but there are some larger philosophical questions that I don't really, dive into, which we might expand on in this podcast. So to start with, let's jump into that. So one of the things that I covered in my newsletter this week, it's something I've been kind of following, but it was kind of encapsulated in this Wall Street Journal article called "AI Has Plunged the Book Publishing Industry into Utter Chaos." And it's basically just tracking this trend that's happened over the last, I would say, year or so. It's really heated up, where a major publisher, one of the big five publishers, will publish a book or publish an excerpt or something like that. Someone on social media inevitably runs it through one of these kind of AI detection programs like Panagram or something like that. It spits back and says, 60% or 90% probability that it was written or edited using AI, and then there's this big fervor, and then some of these publishers have actually caved under pressure and have completely canceled the publication or removed them from shelves and stuff like that. Others have gone forward with it. And one thing I noticed when reading this article was that a lot of these authors, they do one of two things. One, they deny that AI was used at all, or they say, yeah, it was used, but it was used in very specific matters, whether it was part of the research process or as a copy editor. And I can talk a little bit about my own use of AI to help me as a copy editor during this. But I guess I want to turn it over to you and just get your thoughts. At first, I'd love to just hear about what are your book reading habits? What kind of books do you read? How often do you read books? Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I'm a pretty voracious reader. Now, it's not always going to be books. I do tend to stick to more current events. But when I grab a book, it's about sports, or it's about business, or it's about history, generally. I am not a fiction reader, or haven't been in a long time. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I used to read, back in high school, I used to read novels voraciously, but now it's 100% nonfiction. I always loved reading books, but I got stuck not reading books for a period of years because I also had a New Yorker subscription, which I love, but I was trying to be a completist. And so, it was just arriving in my, mailbox week after week after week. And I just was not... I just didn't have time to read books. Finally, I just gave up, threw in the towel recently and said, okay, I'm only going to read the New Yorker on the weekends. And if I don't complete an issue, that's fine. I'm just going to read the articles I want. And so now every single weeknight, as long as I don't have any plans, I'm sitting down and I'm reading a chapter of a nonfiction book. And it's kind of the same as you. It's a lot of history biographies. Right now I'm reading a Pulitzer Prize winning tome called the Lords of Finance, about the central bankers leading up to the Great Depression. So those are the kinds of super wonky books that I like to read. So when you're reading, how much would you care if you found out, especially in the nonfiction space, if you found that an author was using AI as part of that process? Would you care at all?
I don't think I would. So let's break it down. So I read Chuck Klosterman's book about football recently. I read Andrew Ross Sorkin's 1929. Am I going to get upset?
That book, 1929.
Okay, so are either one of us going to get upset if we find out that Andrew Sorkin did some AI tests as to what the weather was on a few of the days, or the weather patterns in 1929 leading up to this, or in the mid-20s. We're not going to care. If you do care, you've got other issues. Where does the line stop between doing general research and AI-assisted research? I don't think that's probably what we're talking about here, right? But at least I didn't think it was, until in your article, people mentioned, oh, they didn't want the research being done using AI tools. And that completely, I don't want to say it upset me, but it really made me think, well, what's the BFD with that? Did it matter when I was a kid, I had to go grab an Encyclopedia Britannica off the shelf? Does it matter now, or are the webheads so upset that somebody didn't go into the microfiche room? Do they even have microfiche rooms anymore? Does anyone under the age of 40 even know what I'm talking about with a microfiche? So I don't understand. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't understand. I understand what the hysteria would be if it was written, and we could talk about that in a second. But let's stop there and put a pin in. Simon, is there a problem doing research for a book using AI tools?
Well, the problem with like a lot of these like anti-AI voices is they think when they picture someone doing research using AI tools that they open up Gemini or ChatGPT and just start typing in prompts, and that's the beginning and the end of the research. And that is just not the case for any working journalist. Like like I use AI, like Gemini specifically, for my research all the time to quickly get me up to speed on topics. But I am also reading upwards of 30 articles a day when I'm compiling my newsletter. Like I am reading from so many different sources, and the idea, but these people who are against this practice, they think that you're getting 100% of your information, or that you're not even clicking on the citations. Like for instance, like I wanted to know like a list of publications that had I forget what the specifically, but a list of like publishers that had experimented with a very specific strategy. Oh, I remember what it was, like basically feeding transcripts from government meetings into AI to help them identify stories to report on and stuff like that. But I didn't remember which newsrooms had done that. So I went into Gemini and said, what are the newsrooms that have experimented with that? It gave me a list. I then clicked on the citations to check Nieman Lab or Columbia Journalism Review and all these different places to actually ensure that was right. But Gemini saved me so much time because it just gave me like a very concise list very quickly, instead of me just typing in a bunch of stuff in Google and trying to kind of fish around in the dark, for example. So it's just like, I do think it's absurd to say that like because AI makes mistakes sometimes that you can't use it as part of your research process.
Everybody makes mistakes as part of a research process. I don't think the fact that you're using more sophisticated tools changes that. You always have to go back and double and triple check and quadruple check your sources. That's fine. So, all right, so we agree that the research process, if anyone really is upset about that, I would imagine they are in the book publishing industry, they are a professor of humanities, or they are just simply over the age of 65, let's just pick a random number, and for some reason this is something to get mad about. So let's stop there and go towards the next part of this, of writing. The actual writing of a book, the actual writing of an article. Where do you feel like you need to be told? First of all, there's a whole level of things. Most people don't even know, and we might get to this later, about how journalism gets done, about the reporting that gets done, and the first write-up of stories, and then where editors come in to play with rewrites and suggestions. And that certainly happens. I mean, you hear about that you need a good book editor when you're writing a book. So is it okay when somebody says, well, this was edited by another person? Well, what % of that book was edited by the person? No one's probably ever asked that in the history of publications. So do you, will you, should we have a problem with a certain amount of content being, do we just say AI generated, AI inspired? Because I don't even know how you're gonna create the chasm. Obviously, if somebody's just, hey, write me an article on something, fine, no, whatever. But if somebody is putting the prompts in and asking or needs help or editing, there's nuances here. I don't know if we're ever going to be avoiding this. If this is ever going to be something that is going to matter. This is something that we care about now, but in 5 years, I don't think anybody's going to care.
Yeah, and so like to be clear, like I think obviously there's a ton of like self-published books on Amazon that are 100% generated by AI. Like they're basically putting in some prompts and they're just churning out these books left and right. I highly doubt that any book that's put out by a big five publisher is going to be 100% written by AI. My guess is that most of these authors are doing what I do when I'm writing my newsletter. Is I'll write the first draft of like a passage of my newsletter, and there will be some sentence or paragraph in there that I'm just not quite satisfied. I'm like, if someone's reading this paragraph, will they fully get what I'm saying? And because I can't get out of my head and I don't have my own editor to help me smooth over my sentences, I will copy and paste that paragraph into ChatGPT and use the prompt, clean this paragraph up so it's more readable. And ChatGPT will almost always spit out a more clear and concise version of that paragraph. Could I have landed on that paragraph on my own if I would have been able to sit on it for an extra day? Sure, but I'm putting out a daily newsletter. I need like some kind of copy editor. I need some kind of objective third party to kind of look over my sentences to make sure they make sense. And I'm not doing it for like 100% of the newsletter, just for the sentences and paragraphs that need that smoothing over. And I think that's like what's mainly happening here is like them using these AI tools, to help in editing. And to the point that you made is like, there's also another editor in the room. It's the editor that works at the book publisher, sometimes also a literary agent that is helping them move through this book. So a book is just like, it's not like this first draft that the author writes. It's never been that. It's been an amalgamation of inputs that have changed the book over time from the first draft to the last draft. So I don't know what kind of label could you put on a book that could like clearly communicate, unless there was just like some kind of page that they put at the beginning, like almost like you have the acknowledgement or something like that, that's like a statement how AI was used for this book. But I feel like that would just be a silly like thing to do.
Yeah, look, there's going to be levels of trust that come and go with these things. And whether, look, what do you want to hear from somebody who's writing about this? We both said the 1929 book. We both did that because Andrew Ross Orkin, we know, is an authoritative subject matter expert on this, or has in the realm of finance. So that's why he wrote the book. Could anybody have just written that? Could you have just done searches on things? Of course, but you go to this, and what will never stop is that we're looking for perspectives on things and some editorializing on this, and a perspective that maybe you didn't have, that a machine doesn't have, that it can relate to different things. I think computers, will take over the world like probably anyone else. I think AI is a massive technological leap, and it's going to impact everything. But like anything else, there will be opinions and slants and points of view that humans will gravitate towards that either fits their natural alignment or they just like that personality. Sometimes there's just, the writing style. When you go and you throw your stuff up into chat, do you then change it again, maybe add a few different things? I've been writing more lately, and I do that too. I'll say, well, could this be more succinct? And I'll see what they write. And then I'll go back and change that again and further edit that, because it still has to sound like me.
Yeah, so like what I'll do is I'll throw the paragraph into chat. It'll rewrite the entire paragraph. And then what I'll do is like if like one of those sentences, I like my sentence better than what ChatGPT, I will just put in the part that I thought was better for ChatGPT and leave my original sentence in there as well. Or I will like slightly tweak the language somewhat. So it really is like this kind of mix and mash of, different techniques. And that's why I just think it's like, I think the anti-AI stat, like people, they're just imagining it's like, oh, they're just typing a prompt into ChatGPT and then they're copying and pasting that into a Google Doc and then sending that off to the publishers. And that's just really not happening. Like Andrew Ross Sorkin, he talks in his introduction about how he did his research. And he says at some point he was actually like looking at the architectural like blueprints of houses, because whenever he's describing a character walking from one room to another, he wanted to make sure he got those details correctly so he could like give you this kind of bird's eye view of like what was actually happening. So if he used AI to find out what the weather was like in Manhattan that day in 1929, like why does that matter? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think, again, there's a lot of spilled milk over this just because change is hard for people. Again, 20 years ago, people were getting upset when you were doing research on the web versus going into a library and doing the microfiche searches. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just the way human nature is.
Do you think the book publishers care, or they just they just don't like being yelled at by authors?
Care about what? Care about machines? Somebody
do they
submitting
really
a piece of work?
fundamentally care how much an AI was used, like in the book writing process? Or I compared it in my newsletter. I was like, there was like this time 10 years ago when YA novels were constantly getting pulled off the shelves because there was some kind of controversy where the author had written about the point of view of someone of a different race or something like that, and like this like online mob went after the publisher, and the publisher didn't like getting yelled at, or the author didn't like getting yelled at, so they canceled the book publication. Is this that version of that, or do you think like publishers like fundamentally they don't care as long as they're not getting yelled at?
Yeah, the latter. They don't care. They don't want kerfluffle. There's going to be this transition period, and transitions are hard. But in a few years, if they just put out there, yes, some of our content is going to be created by machines. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Then don't buy it, kind of thing. This is what we do. Are you going to not eat the hamburger if it was created by a robot? Probably you'll be okay with it. Unless, again, you take these staunch positions that, no, I'm not going to do this, and we're going to talk more about this. It's coming for music. It's coming for our food. It's coming for any form of entertainment that we have. I was touched by a story. I'll digress. The person who originally came up with a sewing machine, his daughter, they were dressmakers, and his daughter said, "Dad, you cannot patent this sewing machine because look at all the seamstresses that we're going to put out of work." Because they just didn't want to have that level of automation. And it's that was 150 years ago. So you in the short term, change is hard. People get upset. There's romanticism. Would I care if my clothing is made by a human being or a machine? We could go. This is a tale as old as time.
So let's move on to the next story. So obviously, YouTube has made some very big announcements, including one today, which I haven't gotten a chance to read much into what exactly they're doing, so I don't know how much we can talk about that. But in recent weeks, they've basically made some changes to their partnership program and also how their views are being counted. Let's start with the partnership program first, because I think that's really interesting as it relates to like the creator economy and creator incentives. So last week they announced that they were going to basically up the restrictions for what it takes, or the parameters for what it takes for someone to join into their partnership program, which means a YouTuber gets like around 50% of all the revenue that's generated from their videos. It used to be that you needed a minimum of 1,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel plus 4,000 watch hours within the last year. They're changing that they're going to keep it at 1,000 subscribers, but that you need 8,000 watch hours over a period of a year. And then for shorts, they're getting even more strict, and we'll talk about that specifically. But you need not only to get your shorts monetized or revenue share with the shorts, you need 20 million shorts views in the last 90 days, and then it's a rolling qualification that you continually need to have at least 10 million shorts views in the previous 90 days, or you basically get kicked out of the revenue share. So I guess let's start with talking about the partnership stuff first. Is what do you think that this signals for YouTube? What is its motivation? What is its core motivation here of why you think it's doing this?
Yeah, I was surprised by this. I didn't expect this to come because not that it didn't matter, but with the advertising world moving more towards performance-oriented measures, where everything is now becoming more regulated to what's happening after exposure, and all of that measurement and methods gets more precise. I didn't think he cared whether an advertiser view was in front of a video that had 10 views or 10 million views. And I don't know why this change happened. I'm assuming there's some level of efficiency that they're getting. Maybe it's as simple as bookkeeping, or as wanting to change the nature of what they do. But I have a feeling it has more to do with just the advertiser sentimentality. And this is probably playing towards the, okay, humans are still in charge kind of thing, because humans are still making the decisions on where ad budgets go. And this is not unrelated to the positioning versus Netflix, where you have the user generated on one side versus the professional folks on the other. So I don't think this is a efficacy issue related to they want to put an ad in front of a better piece of content. I don't think that's it. I think this is just about positioning.
I disagree with you. Like, I think they would much rather put an ad on a video with 1 million views versus 10 views. Like, they do run ads about against those like smaller channels that aren't part of the partnership program, but they are increasingly selling kind of like these premium tiers to advertisers, where in the dashboard you can actually allocate your money towards these kinds of blue chip things. And I think I agree with you that this is about competing with like the Netflixes and the Amazon Primes of the world that are basically opening up their advertising inventory. And I think like YouTube, the one thing that YouTube still struggles with and lags behind is like its allocation within the marketing budget. A lot of marketers are still putting it in the digital budget, and they're not putting it in the TV budget, which is a much larger budget, and it wants to be considered part of the TV budget. And so to be part of the TV budget, it wants to go more premium. And by upping the bar to enter the partnership program, it's going after a slightly more premium creator. None of these fewer of these kind of low value creators that are just churning out a bunch of content and just meeting that kind of bare minimum. And for the average creator, this is not going to be a huge shift in revenue. I've been seeing some reporting on this. If you're only getting 8,000 watch hours per year, that actually only equals like $400 a year. So this isn't going to destroy any creator's career by doing this. And they're also grandfathering in everybody who was already in the partnership program. So overall, I don't know that this is really going to hurt any creator at a material level.
So we agreed at that part, but you disagreed that you think that the advertisers care about the level of premium. And when we were pitching this again, in the early 2010s, when video started coming up and Maker Studios was building a business on YouTube, and Blip was on YouTube, and Tremor Video had an infrastructure business, all the places that I worked at. It was very easy for us to tell an advertiser who wanted to have that. Again, we're talking now 15 plus years ago, everyone wanted to have that idea of, well, is it premium content? And we would say, well, there's only 24 hours in a day, and people are only watching so much video in a day. So what do you care whether it's premium? When you had creators who were brand new to the world, and I won't mention their names, but because so many of them are now semi-retired. But the first wave of creators, the first wave of big folks on YouTube, the audiences loved them. We had creators who would travel around the world and would be met at the airport. They had to have security, keep their fans away from the airport and from the gates. And 90% of ad buyers had no idea who these people were. But of course, their kids knew. And we were very successful in bringing some advertiser meet and greets, because they would bring their kids to see the creators who their kids knew all about, but their parents had no idea. And the parents, of course, were spending $50 million a year in advertising and more. So I still don't think, and again, remember what was the biggest difference between the Google ad system and the YouTube ad system is that Google had 1 million advertisers and YouTube had 10,000 advertisers, just because they didn't have video content. They didn't have video. They didn't have creative that was, creative TV ads. That's changing now. And again, back to AI tools, right? It's much easier to create video content. And then if you add the performance angle of it, that is a different wrinkle to it. Again, well, who cares where the ad is going in front of? So you're talking about people want to see their ads in front, not if you're selling wallets, not if you're selling iPhone holders or iPhone cases, not if you're selling non-premium products. You don't care where the ad goes in front of you. You just want the click and you want the order.
Yeah, but you don't think YouTube is trying to expand beyond the performance marketing towards the kind of more lucrative kind of brand marketing, and then with brand marketing, that perception matters a little bit more? Well,
again, that's I don't want to say that's your bias, but I don't think right now that budget is more in TV, but the overall advertising dollars is bigger around the world in performance dollars than TV production, commercial brand dollars.
Yeah, but like,
so it's
YouTube
just
wants to be
TV.
YouTube is now running its own upfronts. It's like taking its star
Absolutely.
creators and like bring them these upfront events and stuff like that. Like it cares about that TV market, that TV advertising.
Oh, for sure. But it's the big screen market necessarily, and it's the video market. But they still, I think PMax, the performance budget, is still the fastest growing inside of the AdWords and Google Ads ecosystem. I might be wrong on that, but I think that's still a bigger piece. And again, advertisers are increasingly saying, well, what works, right? Whether you put an ad on the Super Bowl, whether you put an ad in front of anything that's running, again, on traditional television, that view time is going down. We all know that. The view time of traditional television programs is way down from what, and goes down further down every year. Decreases every year. But the ability to just, the quintessential, I can't believe it's our first podcast, I'm going to say the right ad, the right time, right place. Shoot me, please. But that's still the what holds in this business. And again, people are going to say, well, what happened after whether I put an ad on a billboard in Times Square or I put an ad on the Super Bowl? What happened after it?
So what is your read then on on the YouTube Shorts thing? Because that's much more strict in what it's allowing. Like people pointed out, to just stay monetized for YouTube Shorts, you'd need to get like 200,000 views a day on YouTube Shorts. What do you think like YouTube is signaling to the marketplace with that?
I think that's all performance. I think those are all e-com advertisers that they want to get in there, and that's basically the hedge against TikTok and Reels, that they want to have that product being used. But you're not seeing. I don't know if anyone sees a 30-second commercial that's going to be that an advertiser is going to care about the beauty of their fragrance or their new car being launched there. I don't think that those products are meshing at all because of just the.
But why do you think they're making it harder?
But
why do you think they're making it harder for YouTubers to monetize their shorts or share in that revenue?
Are they making it harder, or they're just saying, hey, the proof is in the pudding, you've just got to put more work into it, you've got to put more videos up, you've got to get more audience? It might be just an incentive method for creators, for them to get more content from creators. I mean, YouTube is still the biggest driver of a creative revenue base, right? I mean, the only very top echelon of people get any money from anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think like 100,000 views a day is hard, but like, I think like YouTube Shorts has been flooded more so than the long form version of YouTube has been flooded with a lot of low quality content, a lot of AI generated slop and stuff like that, because it's easier to hack the YouTube Shorts algorithm than it is the long form, the long form version of YouTube. Like if you like, and so they're probably seeing that just a lot of low quality inventory. Or a lot of low quality video, and they're just trying to like up the bar so that there aren't a bunch of people just creating YouTube, like just churning out 50 YouTube Shorts videos a day just to kind of try to flood the marketplace and have stuff take off. Ultimately, I think like YouTube launched YouTube Shorts just to make sure that it was like guarding its flank from TikTok and Instagram, but most YouTube Shorts are probably like viewed only on mobile versus the long form stuff, which is viewed on mobile, desktop computers, iPads, and on television sets. So there's just much more opportunities for YouTube to kind of monetize that. I don't think YouTube wants the average YouTuber to think of Shorts as the main business. They want people to think of Shorts as kind of like a marketing channel to kind of raise your brand awareness so you could get people watching your long-term videos. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree there. I think it's just, again, because the advertiser base isn't there for them to do, like you said, these bigger brand deals. It's just a performance tool. And the product is, I don't know, when's we could go on a different rant about YouTube's product development, or Google's product development cycle. But yeah, it was completely a response to TikTok. I mean, that's it, full stop. It's just I don't know, you want to call it a TikTok beat or a TikTok hedge. I don't think it's not used on nearly as much, and it's as those competitors. And like we said, it's not on the big screen. That is purely the phone environment. Whereas they see the rest of their business, and as we might talk about with the Netflix opportunity, the viewing time, more and more people are seeing certainly the podcast, even the YouTube podcast business, that watch time is still gaining and is growing on television than on phones.
Yeah, I think that they would rather someone watch a podcast for 30 minutes than have that same person watch 31-minute reels or 1-minute shorts or whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then, it just announced that also that it's going to change the way that it counts views. It used to be that you had to watch a YouTube video for some period of time. The kind of shorthand was 30 seconds, although YouTube has pushed back and said it actually varies depending on what device or what kind of video it is. But you had to watch it for some sustained period of time before it would count a view. Now if you so much as even scroll over a YouTube video and it starts kind of just like playing like silently, they're going to count that as a view. Obviously, this is going to cause everybody's view counts to shoot up tremendously. It's going to be a big pad to our ego. But like, do you think that this is going to allow YouTubers to kind of mislead marketers and audiences about how popular their stuff is? Do you think this is a big deal? Like, what do you think the play is here?
Yeah, I don't think it's a very big deal at all, because their brand dollars, or the two businesses, obviously, one they don't control as a creator. The ads that appear, the pre-rolls that appear before their content, they have no control over. And it will only affect their brand insertion business, their branded placement, the product placement business, in a potentially extremely short-term scenario, because those product placements are, I would say 80% of them are done for direct response methods. Everybody is putting their QR code or their discount code after whatever insertion that they're doing, and the advertisers will bail very quickly when they see, if they see that the alignment between views and orders or actions is being skewed off. So I always go down to the the most common denominator and the bottom line on those things, and that's when those advertisers look at what the relative metrics look like, not just that person has a lot of views, because everybody's going to go up, like you said. If everybody goes up, then there's not a lot of differentiation happening there.
Yeah, I mean, I think some influencer marketing is probably super sophisticated, like you're describing. I bet you a lot of influencer marketing is still pretty shallow. They're just looking at views, they're just looking at followers, like these kinds of more superficial metrics. I have to believe that at least this will shift some marketing budgets at least a little bit in terms of like getting people to, and also like make it a little bit easier for YouTubers like ones that are kind of shady to kind of juice their views, because before you can easily juice views on a website by just getting a bot to load pages, and even some of those programmatic ad networks, less scrupulous ones, will even count those as ad loads. It was a little bit harder to do on YouTube because one, they own the entire ecosystem, so they could tell if something was a bot, and then two, they were measuring like a sustained view. I think this will like create a lot of view inflation, but I don't know. We'll see how it kind of pans out in the long term.
Look, this has been going. I'm old enough to tell you this happened in the 90s, Simon, when we would put banner ads on pages, and we were giving the bottom below the fold banner ads for free if they matched the banner ads at the top, because there was just no value to them. So anybody, sure, you could say, oh, we're doubling our value, we're doubling our inventory, but this always comes down to what is the advertiser response. And even let's put it in the most highbrow, high-minded way and say, okay, it's not about direct response, then great, there's going to be some surveys, or people are going to see, are my brand metrics going up or down? That will all play out in the wash. That'll all come out, whether or not you're juicing your numbers. Advertisers are so sophisticated with all kinds of metrics that they'll find the right places to put their ads, regardless of how many views somebody says they have.
Yeah, and these 2 weeks, this is apparently the month for big YouTube announcements. Unfortunately, I don't think we can talk about today just because I haven't read up on it yet. I'm going to probably do that by the end of the day. I don't know if you saw this news, but YouTube is, for the first time in years, is going to start paying upfront for content. It's basically going to start trying to incentivize some of its biggest creators not to leave it for Netflix by giving guaranteed payments. It used to do stuff like this when it had like YouTube Originals, when it was paying for shows, and then there was that brief period of time where every single platform was giving these huge multi-million-dollar contracts to like gaming streamers and stuff like that, but it mostly kind of ended that practice years ago, just figuring that the revenue share would be incentive enough. Obviously, like Disney, Paramount, Netflix signing over these YouTubers and these video podcasters must have spooked it or something.
Again, what's old is new again. This was Maker Studios, Defy Media, Machinima, Me Too Networks. There were dozens and dozens of us who got money to create shows from YouTube's Creator Fund. And they were big productions. I mean, we had people flying all over the world making new forms of content because they wanted to do this exact same thing, keep people from going to other platforms, show brand advertisers that they were serious about making quality content, because that's human nature, I guess. And why is it happening now? Yeah, because is Netflix, I guess, is the race from your mind, who becomes who first? Does Netflix become YouTube before YouTube becomes Netflix, or does Netflix become TikTok before TikTok becomes YouTube? I mean, you know, do we need a beautiful mind chalkboard here to put these things together?
I don't think Netflix is trying to become YouTube. Like, I don't think it wants to open up to user-generated content, which would be what it would take. But I think YouTube's worry is probably that all these Hollywood studios can wait for YouTube to basically grow a creator's audience, and then right when that creator is reaching its maximum potential, then the Netflixes and Disneys and Paramounts of the world swoop in and grab that creator and take them out when they're at the top of their game. I'm guessing that that is the worry here.
Yeah, I would say you're right on all of that, but I probably start to think, well, the term user-generated content, again, that'll start to change, whether it's, dogs on skateboards, unless it's Christopher Nolan showing a dog on a skateboard, then it's premium content. Again, we go back to the premise that what consumers are watching, by default, you might call it premium. It might not have high production, but again, advertise. Then you counter that with authenticity. There's a yin to every yang. I think Netflix does want to have a product that's more scroll worthy than just appointment viewing, or sit down on the couch viewing. I think they do want to have a scrollable short form product to compete, because they've got now an ad business that's, once you start down the dirty road of programmatic advertising, man, you are beholden to those numbers increasing by any way possible. So their business will change because of their programmatic endeavors.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to become more kind of ambient TV, almost like second screen TV, where you're like, when you're scrolling on your phone, you can turn on some reality show or video podcast or something like that to watch Netflix simultaneously. It's trying to become like the everyman's TV. And then to your point also, it's also Netflix, Paramount, at least, and Disney are also, they have or are in the process of launching their own vertical video feeds. So they are trying to compete with these social networks, at least in some form or fashion, although they aren't opening, obviously, the floodgates so everybody can listen. But it'll be interesting over the next year or two to see whether any of these bets actually pay off, or if it's going to be another Quibi that they kind of move on from and try to forget that happened.
You took the words out of my mouth. Quibi, right, wrong time, wrong place, wrong capitalization, right idea. It's again, these things, just like we've seen with YouTube. Again, they're going back and wanting to pay creators. This is a 15-year-old idea that they're dusting off.
Well, hopefully we'll know a little bit more about these moves by next week's episode. But for now, we've come up at the end of our half hour. Probably went a little bit over, so we'll wind it down there. Jason, where can people find you?
In the usual spots, although I tend to try and keep it a little classy. So a little bit of Blue Sky, a little bit of LinkedIn, but not much other than that. I post any of the things that I write onto LinkedIn. Yeah,
LinkedIn's usually a good spot, at least for business-related type stuff. Well, Jason, thanks so much for joining me for this inaugural episode. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
I'm looking forward to it, Simon. It was time well spent. You take care, man.